So the holidays are here, guys, and we have the top Xbox Game Pass games and Xbox Store games releasing this November. I'm Sonny, your host, and we're going to start this off with Metal Slug Tactics. Now, as the name already indicates, it's Metal Slug, but it's actually turn-based tactical combat. Now, that's really a combination I've never could have really imagined, but looking at it, I mean, yeah, I think I can get behind this, but you will be able to play your favorite Metal Slug characters, each with their own unique weapons and skills, and you take on a variety of increasingly challenging enemies with melee and ranged attacks. And it does have this retro pixel art look, but I gotta say I'm really digging it. It looks pretty decent. This one is set to drop on Xbox on November 5th. Now, if you guys are into real-time strategy games, you should be excited to know Microsoft is bringing back the classics from the Starcraft series. We are getting the remastered version of the original Starcraft game plus Starcraft 2, and I'm not talking about the multiplayer, that's actually already free. We are getting the campaign collections. Now, the remastered version brings back the original Starcraft story along with the Brood War expansion, but it comes with Ultra HD graphics, improved controls, and at the same time it has that classic level design that we have all fallen in love with. Now, as for Starcraft 2, we're actually getting 3 epic campaigns: Wings of Liberty, Heart of the Swarm, and Legacy of the Void, plus the Nova Covert Ops mission pack, which includes over 70 action-packed missions. And on top of that, you can jump into the co-op commander mode with friends, playing as some of your favorite characters like Raynor, Swan, Zagara, and Karax. Both of these games are coming to Game Pass on November 5th. Planet Coaster 2 is the sequel to the beloved theme park management simulation game, and it's got a lot of upgrades here. Now, the game really builds upon its predecessor, featuring a brand new water park building and management system and some event sequencing mechanics. Now, it also brings back the 3 classic game modes, including career, challenge, and sandbox mode, but with a ton of additional content. Now, the game was already amazing, but it comes in with these realistic visuals, these brilliant character models, and robust management systems that have really brought the whole theme park to life. If you've gotten to play the first game, you should definitely keep an eye out for this one, or if you want to try something a little different than a lot of different games out there, you're going to want to check this one out on your Xbox Series X on November 6th. The original Goat Simulator really became a hit in the world of like absurd simulation games, and we have come such a long way with its sequel Goat Simulator games like 2 and 3, but for someone who's still craving that old school mayhem, Goat Simulator Remastered is gonna be that game for you. Now, this is bringing back that same craziness and mayhem of the original game, but this is coming with improved lighting, enhanced gameplay mechanics, smoother animations, and tons of chaos. And the best part is, it's coming directly to Game Pass with all its DLCs pre-unlocked for you. Now, this is a great deal for anyone who just wants to just kick some human butt and annoy the crap out of everyone without, of course, paying that extra, dollar. We already got the original as well as the latest Goat Sim 3 on Game Pass, and this will be the 3rd edition to join the service. This does land on November 7th. Empire of the Ants is going to be a strange game on this list, but I think like in a good way, and I mean it's a real-time strategy game where you play as an ant commander leading your army of ants to fight some epic real-time battles, and I think it looks super photorealistic, like wow. And you can play this game from a third person's perspective, which I think is great as it really lets you soak in the detail of this breathtakingly gorgeous world filled with all sorts of diverse biomes, from deserts to lush forests, and you will be fighting a variety of other insects like snails and beetles, and even use them to fortify your bases. Now, the game features a 20-hour long solo campaign, then there's a multiplayer mode where you can play ranked 1v1 matches or a 3-player free-for-all battles. This looks like a really neat game, and it does arrive on Xbox Series X and S on November 7th. Guys, we are really closing down on maybe one of the more terrifying horror games that's coming from the original developers of Silent Hill, and this one is called Slitterhead. And this game really creeped a lot of us out years ago when it came out with its announcement trailer, and we got to see even more of this game at the recent Tokyo Game Show. Now, Slitterhead reminds me a little bit of those Korean zombie films on Netflix with like these gruesome parasitic monsters and these shape-shifting creatures, but unlike those traditional horror games, it's actually got full-flesh combat, and you can take on these monsters with swords, guns, and even magic. It looks pretty interesting, especially with that possession system that lets you take control of anyone in the world, jumping from one body to another as you take on these monsters and really try to save of what's left of humanity. Slitterhead is set to drop on the 8th of November for Xbox Series X and S. Now, Farming Simulator is ready for another round with its latest edition of Farming Sim 25, and just like every year, we are getting a bunch of new updates and improvements and features. Now, this time around, we are getting new crops, a variety of wildlife like water buffaloes, and then there's a brand new Asian theme map to explore. You're also going to have access to the latest farming technology with authentic new vehicles and tools to really upgrade your farming experience. And of course, there's also going to be a lot of new challenges like hailstorms, twisters, which is pretty hilarious, and all this stuff can damage your crops. So there's plenty to look forward to in this upcoming edition. Farming Simulator is set to arrive on Xbox Series X and S on November 12th. All right, so I'm not going to forget about this because we are getting the HD remake of the classic Dragon Quest III 2D in November. Now, part 1 and 2 are going to be a separate collection, which makes sense because 3 was basically like a prequel to the original story. So we are getting first the prequel, then we're getting part 1 and 2 that's going to be coming down sometime next year. These remakes were unexpected, but it's great news for all of us retro gamers who really enjoy these types of games. Dragon Quest III Remake takes you all the way back to the vast open world, but it's coming in with stunning new visuals and that same fantastic turn-based battles that really keep you and your party busy for tons of hours. Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake is set to arrive on Xbox on November 14th on Xbox Series X and S. Alright, you're probably not going to find someone who might be a bigger fan of ARPGs like Diablo, Path of Exile, but I have some awesome news because Path of Exile 2 is coming out of early access for all major platforms, including Xbox Series X and S. And I was thinking it's possible that this was going to get pushed back since the closed beta got delayed, but that does not seem to be the case because from the trailers, Path of Exile 2 does look already very polished compared to its predecessor. The combat does look a little bit more fluid, the environments look terrifyingly dark, and then of course we have all these insane monsters to fight. And what we know about the game so far, guys, is that it's gonna be massive with over 100 different maps and a compelling 6-act campaign, and you will be able to pick from 12 different classes and really customize your build with an expansive set of new skills and this whole big skill tree. And of course, with the Path of Exile game, the skill tree looks insane and it's just nuts, and this is gonna be one for the ages because my goodness, I have probably poured thousands upon thousands of hours in Path of Exile 1. I haven't played in a couple of years, but I am really excited for early access that is set to drop November 15th. And of course, Path of Exile, if you're not aware, is going to be 100% free to play. Usually it's mostly cosmetic and maybe stashes that you have to buy, but guys, get ready for this one because this is going to be really good. So guys, we are closing down on Microsoft's most ambitious flight simulator, and that's Flight Simulator 24. And this one, we are no longer just flying above the skies for the sake of sightseeing in a vast open world. We are taking on some high-stake aerial missions like search and rescue operations, aerial firefighting, delivering cargo, saving lives as an air ambulance, and even handling construction projects in remote areas. And guys, the game world is going to be much more realistic this time around. It's going to be filled with wildlife, marine creatures, dynamic weather, even natural disasters like tornadoes and avalanches, and so much more. Of course, we're getting a ton of new aircrafts as well, from a massive passenger planes to old school jets that are perfect for pulling off some epic stunts. Microsoft Flight Simulator 24 arrives this November 19th on Game Pass, and it should be a good one. Now, we can't forget about S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, one of the biggest games that's going to be dropping this year. Honestly, we have been waiting forever for this one because it did get delayed a bunch, but the sequel looks really good. The environment is much more creepier and darker than last time, and from the trailers, it's clear we're in for a bigger variety of enemies, including some terrifyingly new monsters, some mutated creatures, and then you have the factions, which, depending on how you feel with them, you can either be friends or enemies. But guys, I think the most impressive part, of course, is going to be the gunplay here. We are getting a ton of new guns, each really going to be much different from the other, but equally impactful, and I just can't wait to get my hands on this one. Luckily though, we're not going to have to wait too long as this drops on the 20th of November as a day one Game Pass title. Alright, so we have another free-to-play game that's making its way to Xbox, and that's Genshin Impact, and it's about time this one's got here. It's a gorgeous looking action RPG that lets you explore a massive open world filled with breathtaking landscapes, there's magic, and then of course you have a cast of colorful characters. You will be battling enemies using elemental powers, flying across different biomes, making friends, completing quests, and doing so much more. Now, the game already has a huge fan base around the world, but it's about to grow so much bigger with, I think, maybe the coolest fan base, and that's us Xbox players. While the game is free to play, if you have Game Pass Ultimate subscription, you will get access to plenty of the in-game bundles, and of course you get to even play Genshin Impact on Xbox Cloud Gaming. We have the game 9 Souls, which is like a Hollow Knight kind of action platformer that's gotten so many overwhelmingly positive reviews from players, but it's finally coming to Xbox. The main highlight of this game is its Sekiro inspired combat that heavily focuses on parries and deflection moves, and it's really challenging, but it's going to be equally rewarding as well. Now, combined with its fast-paced platforming, Nine Souls offers really some of the best action platforming gameplay I think I've ever seen. It also comes with this like stunningly gorgeous mix of Eastern mythology and like a futuristic cyberpunk universe, and I think that's really neat. And the best part about this, guys, it's actually coming out for Game Pass, and it's coming November 26th. So this is going to be a good one to play for us who, you know, have Game Pass and want to check out a really cool, unique indie game. Now, the game Alters that was actually supposed to come out this 2024 has been delayed to the first quarter of 2025. The devs have wanted to focus on the quality because they feel like the game needs a little bit more polishing of the survival experience before handing it over to us. For those who've been hearing about this or have just heard it now, this is a survival game where you're left stranded on this uninhabitable planet, but there's really no one else around. Fortunately though, you have the technology to make your own clones. Each have their own traits and skills that are going to help you survive, and performing all kinds of different tasks as you try to find a way out. It's really like an innovative game idea, and I think we're just gonna have to wait a little bit longer as it was set to come out this month, but good thing is we'll get to see it pretty soon here in 2025. Now, if you guys remembered the game Subnautica, this was like at its time when it came out a really unique underwater survival game that we really had never seen before, and it really kept a lot of us hooked for tons of hours years ago. But guess what? It's coming back with a sequel and a lot of fresh content. Firstly, we're getting co-op support, meaning we'll be able to face the brutalities of this unforgiving water world with a friend by our side. And I love the solo ride, but having a buddy is going to make the experience a lot of fun. Now, at the moment, we only have a short teaser trailer, but we know it's going to build on some of the awesome game mechanics of the original, but with more challenges, visual enhancements, and even more enemies. Now, there's no fixed release date for this one, but it is coming out sometime in 2025, and guess what, guys? As a day one Game Pass release, so I am super hyped to see this on Game Pass. Now, another game you might not have heard of is Eternal Strands, and from the looks of it, it's almost like Breath of the Wild, but with a more modern and shiny coat of paint, and of course, there's tons of magic. It's an action-adventure game that lets you play as a magic weaver, like a witch almost, and you can use her magic to craft stuff, interact with the environment, and even use her powers to fight some, you know, pretty insane enemies. But unlike Breath of the Wild, it's not going to be an open world game, at least not completely. It's going to have open-ended levels, big enough to let you look around this gorgeous world with some really cool landscapes, but we have no release date for this one. It is set to come out early 2025 though, as a day one Game Pass title, so add yet another game to Game Pass that we can look forward to. Now, the game Wheel World was a game that we previously knew as Ghost Bike, and this has now been delayed back to early 2025. The devs have changed the name, but also the narrative of the game. It's no longer about racing in Valhalla or reviving the long gone courier service between the living and the dead. Instead, now it's about saving the world while performing some sort of grand cycling adventure. Now, the specifics aren't confirmed yet, but we will learn more about the game soon. This one is actually set to land on Game Pass in just a few months, so I guess we'll have to kind of wait and see what this will be fully about, but it looks like it could be a decent one when it does come. Now, we've talked about Wuchang Fallen Feathers before. The game actually was a highlight of the Xbox showcase in 2024, but we only had a little bit of a teaser. But it's back for a second round, and it looks epic. And for those who don't know, Wuchang is an epic looking action RPG that promises to bring a solid Souls-like combat experience, only we have only seen so much of the combat. Now, the melee attack looks super stylish, but a recent trailer also gave us a good look at some of the bosses as well, and I gotta say, man, they look really badass and totally evil. Now, you will play as this brave warrior with amnesia and a mysterious disease called feathering that seems to have corrupted all the monsters around you. Now, the game looks really spectacular with its ancient Chinese mythological look and its vibrant aesthetics. Wuchang, guys, is set to drop on Game Pass sometime in 2025. Now, this next game really took me by surprise because it's a multiplayer first-person shooter coming from the guys behind epic single-player games like Alan Wake, Control, and Max Payne. Now, the game is called FBC Firebreak, and it was just announced at the recent Xbox partner preview. While we didn't get to learn much, it seems like this game's going to be set in a familiar world of Control, meaning we will be facing off against those creepy monsters and supernatural entities once again. Luckily, we will have some backup this time as the game lets us team up with 3 friends, and we're going to have an arsenal of deadly weapons. I know I already have plenty of multiplayer shooters out there, but there's going to be here a story as well, which we don't know anything about, but we will soon. This game is set to drop sometime on Game Pass next year. Now, if you guys are a fan of Monster Hunter, you're going to love this news because the devs have just announced open beta testing for Monster Hunter Wilds, and this is before this launches. And what's interesting here is you don't actually have to register or anything. It's literally open for every Microsoft account holder. They've also announced the date and time for open testing, and you can try this out, I think, from the 31st of October all the way to November 3rd. So if you guys are interested in this one, go ahead and make sure you guys check this out. And finally, we have an awesome update for Dead Island 2. We got a brand new Horde mode and a new Game Plus mode, adding hours worth of new content. Now with Horde mode, you actually get to slay relentless waves of zombies, and really in the most fun possible way. And you can either go solo or tag along with a friend to make things even better. And the new Game Plus mode offers new zombie breeds, a boosted level cap, and an extra skill slot. Both modes are out right now on Game Pass, but even if you don't have Game Pass, you're going to want to check this out with a free trial.